She just gave it to
Okay, Calvin, give me time.
Second.
Kick me out already. I got to December 31st.
I know.
You married today? Send you the invitation.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Gary Common Council, June the 4th, 2019, within the 6 p.m. hour. We are here at the Gary Art House where we will start our regular scheduled council meeting. At this time, I will ask everyone that can and will please stand for the prayer and remain standing for the pledge of allegiance. Mr. Moore will lead us in our prayer.
Almighty God, our Father, we render to you our honor, our praise, and glory, for once again you have extended your mercy and your grace to cover us and allowed us to come together in this place. We stand to declare your name holy and to confess that your name is above all names and that your mercy endureth forever. We pray, O God, that you will pardon our shortcomings of times past and bless us with health, strength, and perseverance to meet the challenges ahead. Bless our leaders in a mighty way. Bless all those who follow them, that they might be supportive and prayerful for great accomplishments for this city. We pray, O God, that your light of healing, your light of comfort, peace, and restoration will shine upon the sick, upon the bereaved, upon the homeless, and on those that are shut up behind prison walls. In the mighty and gracious name of Jesus Christ our Lord, we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Moore, for the prayer. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown. Present. Councilman Brown.
Present.
Councilwoman Caldwell. Here. Councilman Profel. Councilwoman Rogers. Present. Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade. Here. Councilwoman Wyatt. Present. And President Brewer.
Here.
Mr. President, there are 8 present, 1 absent.
With 8 present, 1 absent, we do have a quorum to conduct the business of the city of Gary. There's no minutes to be presented to the council at this time. Signing a council pending ordinance and resolution on first reading.
CPO 2019-35, an ordinance to establish the boundaries of the Gary Land Company Historic District, sponsored by Ronald Brewer, President of the Gary Common Council, Rebecca Wyatt, Councilwoman of the 1st District, Mary Brown, Councilwoman of the 3rd District.
Arts and culture.
CPO 2019-36, an ordinance of the Gary Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, authorizing issuance of the City of Gary, Indiana Economic Development Tax Increment Revenue Bond Series 2019 U.S. Steel Corporation Project, and the provision of the proceeds thereof to the United U.S. Steels Corporation, and authorizing and approving other actions in respect thereto. Sponsored by the Gary Economic Development Commission.
Finance.
CPL 2019-37, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Hytham Swice, 9557 South Kenneth Avenue, Oak Lawn, Illinois. Property at 5130 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
Planning.
CPO 2019-38, an ordinance revising the 2019 appropriations for the general operating budgets for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2019-39, an ordinance appropriating 2019 budget for the operating expenses and salaries of grants and special revenue funds for Commission for Women and Health and Human Services of the City of Gary for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Finance.
CPR 2019-05, a resolution of the Gary Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, approving certain matters in connection with the establishment of an economic development area and the allocation area of the approval of the economic development plan for said area. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary Redevelopment Commission, and the Gary Plan Commission.
Finance.
Mr. President, ends assignment of pending ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you. First one that will be Councilwoman Wyatt.
Yes, I have before me CPO 2019-35. For the record, I report this out from the Art, Culture, and History Committee. Councilman Brewer?
The committees on that one is Councilwoman Rogers and Councilwoman Wade. All right, yes.
Okay. Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
The majority of the Art, Culture, and History Committee has confirmed that this will be assigned to the Art, Culture, and History Committee.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown.
the Finance Committee has before it CPO 2019-36. For the record, I approve this ordinance for putting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell
Yes.
and Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2019-36 for reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has reported CPO 2019-38. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell
Yes.
and Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown, you have one more committeeman. Councilman Brown is also on your committee also.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Councilman Brown.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. President, the Finance Committee has before it CPO 2019-38. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
and Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2019-38 for reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has before it CPO 2019-39. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
and Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2019-39 for reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has before it CPR 2019-05. For the record, I approve this resolution for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
and Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPR 2019-05 for reporting out to the council.
Mr. President,
Councilman Smith.
Planning Committee has before it CPO 2019-37. I don't have my glasses. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out. Councilwoman Rogers,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. President, that's it for me.
Councilwoman Wade, can we have you to report out your committees?
the
Wyatt,
Councilwoman
I'm
Wyatt.
sorry.
Right. I'm reporting out for the Art, Culture, and History Committee, CPO 2019-35.
Mr. President, Finance Committee would like to report out CPO 2019-36, 2019-38, 2019-39, and CPR 2019-05.
Mr. President, Planning Committee would like to report out, has before it, CPO 2019-37.
Thank you. At this time, there's no special presentations that I'm aware of at this time. Special and select by any council member at this time.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Wyatt.
We will be having an Art, Culture, and History Committee meeting on June 10th at 6 p.m. Everyone is invited. I encourage the council members to attend as well because we will be addressing this ordinance about the Gary Land Company. In addition, the regularly scheduled First District Community Meeting that was scheduled for June 24th is canceled. So there will be no First District Community Meeting in June. Thank you.
Let the record show Councilman Trosto has joined the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Please join the Theodore Roosevelt High School grounds cleanup. This will be June the 8th, Saturday at 7 a.m. at 730 West 25th Avenue, Roosevelt's grounds. If you need to call someone, 219-200-4024 for more information. We need your help. Here is how we can help. Volunteer to help clean up the Belt grounds on the morning of June the 8th, 7 a.m. Invite friends and family and alumni. Also, the 5th District has a community forum Monday, June the 17th, 5:30 p.m. at First Financial Bank, 5974 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana. This is in the 5th District. And we will be using their community rooms and finding out information on First Financial Bank, along with U.S. Governmental Affairs representative of the McDonald's Corporation as speaker. And last but not least, 5th District is still having their 5x5x5 community cleanup. Please stop in the area. It is between 21st and 25th, between Massachusetts and Virginia Street. Please come out and volunteer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Wade.
I would like to extend my condolences to the Friesen family, to the family of Miss Eileen Friesen, or Mother Eileen Friesen. She was a long-term member of the New Friendship Baptist Church, and also to the Mother Nellie Foster family, a longtime member of the Pilgrim Rest Missionary Baptist Church, and to the Pilgrim Rest family. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown.
thank you. I'd just like to take this opportunity to extend my sincerest condolences to the family of Mr. James Sesson. Mr. Sesson was a committeeman in the 3rd District, and he passed away this past weekend. Services are scheduled for this weekend coming up. And so I'd like to certainly extend my condolences to that Sesson family. He was the precinct committeeman for G310. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Rogers.
thank you. I want to publicly acknowledge a 16-year-old who sent me a letter. His name is James Dixon. Greetings, my name is James Dixon, and I am a resident in Gary, Indiana. I came here today to ask if you guys could help fix our backboards at Ironwood Park. I really care for my city and neighborhood, and I don't want to see it go into ashes. Lastly, when we try to play full court We can't because of the holes in the backboard. This is from a constituent in my district, James Dixon, 16 years old. He dropped it off, this letter, to my office, and I went to Ironwood Park and I took photographs of the backboards. There are 4 backboards, 2 of them are broken, 2 are just fine, and I'm requesting that those backboards be replaced as soon as possible. I mean, we're here, summer months, this is the time where neighborhood children come out and they visit our parks, and Mr. Dixon wants to play basketball, and we should give him that opportunity to play basketball. When I went down to take those photos, I also noticed that there were TVs that were dumped at Ironwood, and I requested that the recycling department pick up those TVs. But there's some major challenges at Ironwood Park. First of all, it's utilized. There's a group that use that pavilion weekly. They have special guests, I think it's NA, they have special guests that come from out of town, and to see the condition of that park. There is a truckload of mulch in the parking lot, there is a truckload of branches in the parking lot, it needs cutting, and the list goes on and on. But I'm hoping that with summer coming, with holidays coming, the 4th of July, et cetera, that we will do better. And I do recognize, you know, with 50 parks, there's a lot of challenges, but there are some main parks in each district that get the attention that it needs because it's utilized, and I would just hope that happens. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Any other council members? I have a public announcement to be made for the Gary Community Schools Advisory Board meeting will be Tuesday, June the 11th at the Gary Area Career Center. The meeting will start promptly at 6 p.m. They asking all that have interests and concerns about the Gary Community Schools to please come out to this meeting June the 11th. I have some concerns, and I've been getting quite a few calls about the properties of Gary Community Schools, and I have taken a ride throughout the city, and it is horrible. Some properties of schools is open, some properties of schools is closed, but most importantly, what a lot of people are saying is the schools is closed because there's more schools closed than open inside the city. This problem must be addressed in some type of fashion there, and urgent fashion. The grass is so tall, it's become safety issues there. I'm just in my neighborhood this weekend where was using one of the city mowers there. We're cutting various lots there, and I just cut some of the debris back. There's no way possible that I can cut the whole entire school myself, but that has to be taken care of, and there has to come up with a serious maintenance plan to take care of it, because you can cut grass this week, but within 2 weeks later, something needs to happen. So it's not so much about just cutting the grass, but there needs to be a plan in place to make sure that these properties are maintained in a fashion. And I would like to see some of these school properties that I know went through the bidding process and nothing happened, that they revisit some of these bids there, and let's unload some of this property to someone that can take on these facilities. I know Nobel was one that came up in the bidding process, and I know there was some problems with that bid there, but Ernie Powell was one that came up in the process also too. And I would like to see they revisit those. So I do plan to try and make it out to that meeting on the 11th. I do support Councilwoman Wyatt ordinance. I won't be at the meeting that day. That'll be my birthday that day, so I will take that day off. But I won't be there, but I am full support of what you're trying to do and asking the council to do. I am in full support. So I just want to go on record about that. but I
Thank you.
will be at the other ones that's upcoming. I know there's more to come. I plan on doing more helping out with our general service department because we know there has been a extreme amount of rain that has fallen throughout the city. And I took it upon myself to go get some machinery this weekend and just to cut some lots there. I made it through about, I believe, 11 or 12 lots cut in the city, and I'm trying to push that for the next 3 weeks, get about that amount cut for the next 3 weeks, just to help out the process there. It takes all of us to make this thing happen, but the neighbors in the neighborhood were very appreciative of the work that was done. So I worked inside the 3rd and a portion of the 4th. I'll be doing more in the 4th because the 4th district stretched across so many parts of the city. I'll be in the 21st block on the east side of 21st, and also I'll be in the 5th district off of Harrison there, 35th and Harrison. Trying to look at the safety issue when you come into the intersections and people are having a hard time. They're dodging out into traffic even more because they can't see, and it's a safety concern. So we're trying to work together to make sure that this happens. I know there are some summer hires that are on, but because of the rain, some things is out of our reach there because of the shortage of manpower that we do have. But I was out with the guys Monday morning, and they hit it early that morning. They're cutting more lots there, but we have to work on the process even more. And that just goes to show there's a extreme need to hire more inside the general service, but you have to have the equipment for them to use. Even if you just have bodies, you need the equipment also. I also want to send my condolences out to Mother Dumas. I got the name right. Mother Dumas, the former First Lady of Metropolitan. Send my prayers out to that family there and their loss. If there's nothing else, we will go to 3rd and final.
CPO 2019-33, amended and restated ordinance exercising home rule authority of the city, reapproving the building corporation, determining need for working capital financing, authorizing execution of lease, authorizing the sale of certain real estate, and approving the issuance of bonds and related matters. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Quinn Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2019-33 on 3rd and final reading.
Second?
Been moving properly second.
Mr. President.
Okay.
I move to amend by substitution CPO 2019-33.
Second.
That's right, she just gave me that. Been moving properly second to amend CPO 2019-33. Roll call on amendment.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
No.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
No.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7 yes, 2 noes.
Vote of 7 yes, 2 no. CPO 2019-33 has been amended. Overview at this time.
Mr. Chairman, members of the public, members of the council, and members of the public, good evening. This is an amendment to an ordinance which was actually passed in October of last year. And because there has been so much time, I want to kind of give the council a full explanation that might not otherwise come with an amended ordinance. And because this is so significant, I think it's also in order. It is well documented that our city has had any number of financial challenges, from the permanent property tax caps to the reduction in our assessed valuation as well as our property tax collection, reduction in casino revenue, and all of that coming in the face of reduced expenses. But because the expenses are not reducing as quickly as the revenue, and, you know, we could go all the way back to 2002 when they changed the way that our industrial taxpayers were evaluated, and ultimately changed the evaluation for other property taxpayers. That was appealed, went to a fair market value, but all of that has impacted the dollars that are available to the city. There have also been, recognizing these challenges, a historical effort to fix these revenue challenges. One of those efforts was the institution and our support of the institution of the local option income tax, which occurred about 6 years ago. Others have been efforts to raise revenue so that we can leverage other people's revenue, hence the work that was done at Indiana University with the building at Indiana University, but that was done with state revenue. There has been other state revenue that we leverage. The building of the road into Buffington Harbor, actually both roads, was a result of our ability to leverage not only state funds, but federal funds. And so this has also been an effort to gain some type of relief. Back in 2017, when it was clear that we were increasingly having to get gap loans or loans to take us to the end of the year so that we could get to the beginning of the year, do TAWs, and stretching out that process, and that it wasn't working, there was an earnest process that was embarked upon to say, how do we change the way that we conduct business in a way that will allow us to increase revenue significantly and reduce costs? We did that over the course of a year and a half and came up with a financial recovery plan that would yield ultimately $11.2 million. And that plan is actually being implemented. 839 Broadway is not only being closed, but it's being sold. There was an auction 2 weeks ago that yielded probably about $60,000 of old city property that we were able to gain revenue from. There have been changes in the use of technology. There have been changes in a variety of aspects, and there were some efforts at legislative changes. Some were successful, some were not, but that is all factored into the financial recovery plan. And it's not just a, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. It's something that is tracked every week, something that is reviewed every week. It's something that we can leave as a blueprint for the next administration. And it's something that is, while it is ambitious, it is certainly achievable and not by any means unrealistic. And so that is the context of this sale-leaseback. And essentially what the proposal would do is provide $35 million in revenue. It would be $30 million for the 2019 year, $5 million for 2020. I should tell you this in the context of last year when the plan was to close the sale-leaseback transaction by the end of 2018, where we would have in 18 used approximately $17 million, and then I'm sorry, in 17 used $7 million, and then this year used $17 million. We had to defer that because the proposals that we were getting were not, one, within the statute, and two, just simply not favorable. And so we deferred that. And in addition to deferring it, we were able to get $5 million more in property tax revenues. And we believe, and we know that to be a result of some investments that had been made by U.S. Steel, and some of those investments resulted in a higher property tax collection. However, it did not solve the problem. What we have done was continue to kick the can. About 2 months ago, you did a $8 million loan. That was a gap financing. It was the same revenue stream, done with the same revenue stream that the sale leaseback is contemplated to use. The original transaction was sale leaseback of the public safety facility. It was financed with lit revenue, approximately $3.8 million of that revenue over the course of 17 years. And although it says up to 20 years, the actual transaction will be 17 years. The payment will be $3.8 million a year. It will be backed by the LDA revenue, and that is one of the changes. The other change is that when we came before you to ask for authorization to go to the market came back and said, we do require a mortgage on the public safety facility. That was originally not the request. This is one of the changes. So the two changes that are before you are the mortgage on the public safety facility and backing the revenue with the LDA payments. In addition to that, we can tell you that the interest rate will be less than 7%, even though we've not priced the bonds. The proposals that have been before us have been under 7%. We also can tell you that if there is, as we expect there to be, with the development of the casino on the 8094 corridor, an infusion of cash, there is an option of early payment. The last thing I would suggest, well, it's not really the last thing. I want to answer any questions. The original plan would have been to close in October, invest $17 million in 2018, $8 million in 2019, and $5 million in 2020. That would have led to a balanced budget in 2021. Because of the delay in the transaction, we have to pay off the $8 million that has already been borrowed. We have another $5 million that's pending in outstanding bills that are due. We have another $12 million gap that we expect at the end of this year. And then we would be able to defer or use the remaining money for 2020, or the next administration would be able to. I would also mention to you that there is a provision that indicates that there are no expenditures without the council's approval under the sale leaseback. And so there would be a full proposal so that every bill that is paid, every payment that is made out of the proceeds are approved by the council. So what if we do nothing? Can the city survive through the end of the year? It is very likely that the city will. The problem is that if you do nothing, when you get to the beginning of 2020, you will have no money, you will have obligations for the TAW, you will have other obligations, and while we have been very frugal in not paying or deferring some payments, because those vendors anticipate this transaction, it is very likely that many of those vendors will not provide services on a continuous basis. And so I would simply say that this is a part of a financial recovery plan. It is a plan that is necessary and that is doable. It is a plan that we anticipate providing to the council. The council has, in fact, been aware of it, and to the next administration. It does not, I would add, tie their hands, because there are other revenue sources, and in fact, it gives them latitude to make a number of decisions. Since you last considered this, we have also made commitments to sit down and look at the changes in other departments to reduce the city's footprint further. One of those changes I can share with you is in the health department. Again, it's on a specific plan, and a number of those aspects of the sale-leaseback are outlined in a way that will be implemented this year. So it's not, again, not deferring actions that we know need to be taken. Are there any questions, Mr. President?
Questions, council members at this time?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Rogers.
Mayor, I had an opportunity to review the Finance Committee meeting. There's been a lot of talk about financial recovery plan, financial recovery team, meetings weekly, but I have not received any paperwork regarding. The last thing I received was a working budget, and that was basically when the majority, where the public safety was going to be police and fire contributing the most money in terms of reduction. And so
So the working budget is different from the financial recovery plan. What the working budget really shows is the cash budget. And the reason that you see, while the police and fire aren't the ones that have the largest reduction, you see the largest percentage there because they have the largest portion of the budget. And so what it shows is that we know that we don't collect the cash that's budgeted. And what you had before you was a cash budget that allows for each department to understand that while this is on the budget, you only have so much cash to spend. Separate from the financial recovery plan, you referenced the weekly meetings. We meet with the council president, the council vice president, the finance chair, key department heads. We can't meet with everyone because of the open door law, but we review the cash, the general fund cash every week to determine what should be paid, what can be paid, and what cannot be paid. It is also pursuant to a freeze that is underway. And so you talk about the parks, you talk about the significant overgrowth, you talk about the backboards and things of that nature. All of that is tied to our ability to pay for those things.
No, I understand that. I mean, we all have a budget. The park department has a budget just like everybody else has a budget, whether, you know, you can take some money and fix a backboard. I mean, that's a different story. But I'm just saying, as far as information coming before the council, I know you passed information out at the meeting. Again, I don't know what you passed out. I didn't receive it. And in terms of just making sure that members get the information, whether someone can email us, whatever, that needs to be given to us so that we will be in a good position. The projections, there were a lot of projections, 2018 and 2019, about some further reductions. And so I haven't heard anything about whether or not you've reached that, the city has reached those projections or not, when you talk about furthering, reducing the city's budget.
Well, we have met some of those projections. The sale of 839 will assist in that regard. The passage of the legislation will assist in that regard. We just previewed some new technology that we believe will reduce the cost of providing service and allow us to not only make it easier for consumers, but also reduce costs. We are going to the table in the next, actually next week, to talk to all of the unions. So the short answer to your question is that we are on track with a majority of the projections. The only difference is the fact that we did not get the amnesty program passed. That was taken out at the last minute during the legislative session.
One of the questions that was asked at that meeting was, when you talk about getting 40 million or getting 30 million this year, what does that debt look like? And I know that we do have information regarding 2018 and a list of debt. Is that what you're going to be basing that off of?
That's what we're going to be paying off.
You're going to be paying off what
Yes.
we received last year regarding the debts that are outstanding?
Yes. So what this will allow us to do is be debt-free, and this will be the primary debt for the city.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Wade.
Okay, so I did get the one-pager that was passed out at the finance meeting, and I've had an opportunity to read over that, but I still don't see all of the information that I need to make an informed decision in regards to the terms of the bond. And I'm looking at, when I bought my house, I had a whole bunch of pages to look at. And we're talking about saddling the city with debt for the next 20 years with the new administration coming in January. And that's my biggest problem, is that we have a new administration coming in January. And I did get an opportunity to speak with Mr. Prince, and not going to divulge the conversation that he and I had. And I understand his position in that, well, I understand his position. And at the same time, understanding the city's position and those who have, at this point, put their faith in another candidate to be able to fix this problem. And if he decides that he does not want to stick with the financial recovery plan that you have set forth, then we'll have no choice but to give up our lit tax, our LDA. And we don't know, because I just got an amortization schedule that was passed out earlier based on an 8% interest rate and a monthly payment of $334,000. And when we're talking about, you're saying debt-free as if we're not going to have any debt, but we have this debt.
No, I said that was the only debt, that the other debt would be paid off. So I did not in any way say you would be debt-free.
Well, you said debt-free, and then you said this will be the debt. And that's oxymoronic if you ask me, because this is debt, whether it's in this bond or whether it's over in...
No, we're acknowledging this is debt. It's debt that,
Okay.
yeah. this is
Okay,
debt.
so, and again, we don't know what the interest rate is. I've got one based on 8%. You said that you've seen some come in at 7% or lower than 7%, but there's nothing that we have in front of us saying that.
So Councilwoman Sparks Wade, this is not the document that sets the terms of the bond.
I get that.
would recall you back to the original document. It set outside parameters, no more than 8%, or actually it was 9%, which is the statutory debt limit. No more than 20 years. And so this is amending that ordinance, so it would not be required, quite frankly, or appropriate to come and say this, to provide that at this time, because that's still being negotiated.
Okay, so then, and I would ask my colleagues, because it is before us again, we have another opportunity to revisit this issue, to really think about, because in October, we didn't know who the next mayor was going to be, but now we do. And that should weigh into your decision as to whether or not we want to, again, saddle the next administration with these terms. Because if it's, let's say it's at the 8% that we're looking at, the interest, we will have paid more interest than we would have received income at the end of the 20 years. Let's say, you know, we don't know what kind of rainy day we're going to have, and not be able to make a $334,000 payment. We don't know how many people are still moving out of the city. We don't know how many businesses are not going to be paying their taxes. We don't know that. And so, you know, I would just say that we would be jumping the gun to enter into this agreement knowing that in 6 months we'll have a new mayor. And I just don't think that that is fair to the next administration.
I certainly respect that perspective, but what I would say to you is that this administration has to run the city for the next 6 months, and you have to have dollars to do that.
And you indicated that for the next 6 months, we're okay. Just like in October of last year, you said we were going to run out of money. And here we are in June, and nobody's missed a paycheck in the city, because I haven't heard that anybody missed a paycheck. And I think we should do
Well,
something.
there are a lot of folks who have missed paychecks. I mean,
Well-
we have a significant arrearage.
Well, I said no city employees have missed paychecks, because we would have heard about that.
Okay.
I get it that the vendors have missed paychecks, but I think also that vendors have a little bit of hope in the next administration, because the voters put their trust in another person. And so I think that we should, as council members, I think that we should, this is a good opportunity for us to say, hold on, wait a minute, let's defer it, let's talk about this a little while longer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President?
Let me take the privilege, I didn't acknowledge the former council member, Attorney Lay, in the building. That's my apologies there. That's according to our rules, we need to acknowledge him. Councilwoman, before you go to the second round, let me go to Councilman Smith, then we'll come back for a second round.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to make a bunch of people angry at me right now, because I live in the world in which I find myself, the reality I find myself. Okay, I'm one of the ones who've seen the options, and I know for a fact, let's say we take Councilwoman Wade's recommendation that we do nothing. Let's do that. But you didn't hear the other part of this. You're so focused on, let's go to the end and there's another administration coming, that you're ignoring the reality that at the end of this year, you're not going to have any money. So we can do what you want to do. we can go to the end of the year, I'll vote no, and maybe some other people will vote no or whatever, and then we'll go by your recommendation, and let's see what happens. At the end of the year, you'll be sitting here on zero. I've seen the options. None of them are pretty. But if you want to go that route, I'm happy to do that. But I don't think that's the most prudent thing that we should be doing for the city. As the mayor just indicated, the city still has to function. What you got to realize is cash flow is the lifeblood of any entity. If you run out of cash flow, you're dead in the water. You're dead, and nobody's coming to your aid then. No one. You're dead. I know you heard this before, but let's play this game. You want to play chicken? Let's go to the end. We'll do nothing. And we'll see if you are right or if the rest of us are right. So that's my thought. Want to go there? It doesn't hurt me. We'll go there. We'll go to the end of the year and do zero.
Mr. President, I understand.
Councilman Brown?
Did you call on me?
Yes, Councilman Brown. Councilman Brown, yes.
I'm sorry, I do understand what Councilwoman is saying, and I understand what Councilman Smith is saying. What the mayor is explaining to us is if we do nothing, then we have nothing, we have zero. You know, those persons who are saying, well, maybe, or they'll get a paycheck, or maybe they won't get one. We will not, the cash money is not there. We do not have the dollars. And I don't know what it takes to make us understand that we don't have, the money simply is not there. That we have to do something in order to try and get ourselves out of the bind that we're in. It has not to do with attempting to do anything negative against the next administration. What it has to do with is the fact that we have got to survive the next 6 months. People have got to collect paychecks, we have got to pay bills, and we've got to do all the things that we need to do from now until the end of December. Makes no sense as council members to sit here and say, we'll do nothing, and we'll just wait and see what happens. That makes no sense to me. And I can tell you right now, even before we take a vote, I'm not going to vote to do that, because I know that we'll have nothing, and I'm not prepared to do that. I'm not prepared to put the citizens of this community in that kind of a bind because we are saying that there's going to be a new administration. We know there's going to be a new administration. We understand that. And we're willing to do all we can moving forward to help that administration. But we also understand that there is a serious cash flow, and if we do nothing, we'll have no money. That's my position.
Anyone else before we go to the second round with any other members?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Smith.
I have to agree with Councilwoman Brown. The bottom line to it is the voters vote for us to work an entire term. We're elected to look out for their best interests, not to sit and wait and not to say, well, you know, the last few months, I'm not going to do anything. You know, other communities are laughing at us because we are too indecisive. We're not being positive about moving forward. We're being too negative. And if Gary ever is to change and get better, we have to make these tough decisions. And like Councilwoman Brown, I'm going to make the right decision tonight. And I'm going to live with that. So that's where I'm at. Thank you. God bless you.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Wyatt.
I voted against this when it came up before, and I will vote against it again because I don't think that it's a good use of, I think it's too expensive to saddle the city with this much debt. And I object to an amendment on the floor for an ordinance of such magnitude that, and, you know, that we are supposed to, we're put on the spot to make a decision on the fly. We only have this one overview, and that overview said that the debt service, the annual debt service would be $3,540,000, and now we're hearing that it's $3.8 million.
No, it's 3.5. I misspoke, Councilwoman Wyatt.
Yet, at the committee meeting, when I said LDA, and the mayor corrected me and said, no, not LDA, I said I misspoke, I meant LIT, lit. But then, when I got an opportunity to look at the overview that was handed to me on the committee table, which I couldn't read on the fly, I see that at the bottom, it pledges both our lit and LDA money. So I was not wrong. It's lit and LDA. So the way I see this is it's too expensive of a debt. If we're going to pay $5 million off the top for expenses, that's 12.5% interest on the $40 million. That's already too much. $5 million is going to go to the attorneys, to the finance people, to the marketing people. We have no idea what the terms of the bond will be. How much do we have to put for, how much do we have to put aside in escrow? How much is, what is the early prepayment? Is there a prepayment penalty? Do we have to keep the loan for a certain number of years before we can prepay? We don't know any of that, yet we're expected to make a do-or-die decision again without sufficient facts and information to make it. I also noted that we will be out of the money that we borrow next year, 2019 and 2020. We won't have anything else. And we will have tied up our revenue streams, two small revenue streams, lit and LDA, to go for the debt service. So, and we've already tied up the property tax revenue because we have to pay the TAWs, the tax anticipation warrants. So what will we have to work with? What will we have to build on to get ourselves out of? We're just borrowing more and paying more on the debt service. My concern, as it was last year, is that this is just too expensive of a proposition for us to enter into. It's too big, it's too expensive, and I do not think that it's in the city's best interest, no matter if the administration was going to stay the same or change. For the citizens of the city, to saddle the citizens with this kind of debt is not prudent, and I will not vote for it.
Mr. President, I just want to clarify that, again, this amends the ordinance from last year that gives you the parameters, that authorizes. Councilwoman Wyatt has talked about the details of the transaction. This allows us to negotiate those details. That's what it did before. We're amending that ordinance so that we can negotiate those details. That's the purpose of this ordinance.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes, Mayor. I guess my final question would be, there's been a lot of talk about the changing in administration. Was there any thought to maybe half of the amount of money instead of 40, 20, or not 20 years to pay it off? Was that considered at all?
That was, actually, that's why we are only getting 30 this year and 5 next year. There were considerations, discussions about getting a smaller amount or getting the same amount in smaller sums. And at the end of the day, there was no market interest in that scenario.
Okay.
Any other council members?
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Just a question for the mayor. Will we get to see, will the council be permitted to approve the bond package before it goes out?
No, you will have the details. I don't have a problem sharing the details, but no.
So really, we would be approving the parameters, and we can see the details, but we won't have any authority to do anything about it.
Yeah, you're approving the worst-case scenario.
And we would not be able to do
Or
anything.
I shouldn't say the worst case, the highest
But the
parameter.
highest, right, I understand.
Okay, no other questions from council members? We will go to public portion at this time. Anyone would like to speak for or against CPO 2019-33? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
Mr. President, members of the council, my name's Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District, and this amendment is a fraud upon the fraud that you passed last year regarding this sale leaseback. It's not only a fraud on the citizens of Gary, it's also a fraud on the lenders. It's a fraud on this council. Everyone knows that when you borrow money, it requires those properties to have an appraisal. Appraisal is generally market value. This far exceeds the market value of that property. Instead, our clever accountants decided...
Mr. Nowacki, we can hear.
Our clever accountants decided we can use replacement value for assessed value. That's a fraud. Now, when we talked about the worst-case scenario, this is that worst-case scenario. The mayor talked about if we don't do this, we're going to be out of money for the new administration. That's not how this administration received this city. This city had gone through Distressed Unit Appeals Board and was financially solvent when this lame duck administration took office 8 years ago. After 8 years, we find ourselves $40 million in debt, and that's with a Harvard degree and all of the accountants and all of the consultants. Do you know Bo Kemp? You won't be able to prove it. Bo Kemp is going to get $750,000 for putting this deal together. And of course, all of the accountants and all of the attorneys. By the time we're done with this, and you know we have to put $5 million in the pocket of the lender that they'll just keep in their pocket, $5 million for 20 years. We have to pay interest on that $5 million. That's why we're borrowing 40, but only getting 35. The mayor added all the numbers. I was adding them as she was saying them. At no case do we ever see more than $24 million needed. $24 million needed, that's the maximum. And that's taking consideration that she's not pulling the wool over our eyes, which I don't think is, we can count on that at all. This lame duck administration received a city in relatively financially solvent condition. It's leaving it, by her own admission, $40 million in debt, and you're all going to be part of that. Don't forget that we're not just getting a new administration, we're actually getting 4 new council members. And I actually know some of these council members, and I have great confidence in these young people who are coming on, well, including Mr. Lay, the young people coming on this council. I have confidence in them. Not that I don't have confidence in you. I believe I have confidence that you're going to vote this down. But please, please, let's look at this carefully. Let's count the numbers. Let's add it up. We might need to borrow some money, but we don't need $40 million just so the mayor will not only be able to spend the money on the debts, but also have money to waste in the coming year. Thank you.
Cliff Caldwell, 5th District. I'm actually opposed to this as well because when this first came up last year, I asked a question when the administration said that everything had to be done last year within 30 days because by the end of October we would be broke and police would be laid off and fire would be laid off and general services would be laid off. I asked the question at the podium in City Hall. I said, well, has the mayor shown any documents to the citizens or this council that said we will be broke in 30 days? The answer was no. So I'm asking, have we seen anything to say we'll be broke in 6 months? And if so, I would like that document to be made public so that then we can get this ball rolling and get this thing done. But you can tell us anything. You can tell us in 2 weeks we'll be broke, so we got to do this. In law enforcement, we call that a scare tactic, and that's what that sounds like. Not only are the length of this thing too long, 20 years, you can possibly have 5 different mayors during that period of time. Also, we got 5 new councilmen or something like that coming in. I think we should just slow down on this thing a little bit. We need some more evidence that we're gonna be broke in 6 months. Like, before we were gonna be broke in 30 days, by the end of October. Also, it's my understanding that the mayor's, her allies on the council knew about this as early as January of 2018. And then the other people, Councilwoman Rebecca Wyatt, Councilwoman Sparks Wade, and Councilwoman Rogers were brought in many months later and told that they had to act immediately with a lot of documents to go through. They had very little details, but the rest of the council was privy to this. The citizens weren't let in on this. Several council people weren't let in on this. I mean, and then we'd been told all these different numbers, and this is the parameter, or it might not be the parameter, or it could be 20 years. We're gonna be broke in 6 months, maybe 7 months, maybe 5 months. So let's just get some solid information. Let's have some study sessions on this thing. Present the citizens with everything. This should be transparent, because at the end of the day, we're the ones paying for this. I'm paying for it. You know, the mayor will be out of office in 6 months. She can go anywhere in the country. The council people who won't be, they can go anywhere. But the people that's here still working in this community, owning houses, businesses, properties in this community, will be the ones stuck with this. So let's just defer this and hold off on it and get some more information.
Mr. President, members of the council, I'm Dr. Richard Barnes, and I live in Gary. I've been here for 15 years. I'm on the board of governors of the Society of Innovators at Purdue University Northwest. I was 4 years in the South Dakota legislature, and I was on the appropriations committee, where we handled 160 different budgets of all the departments every year for 4 years. We never had a deficit budget. We always paid our bills, and it was a very successful state. I was also on the board of directors of a bank in New England, St. Mary's Bank. And we worked with the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, so I'm familiar with financing, okay? And what I'm saying is that we should take note that we had an election recently, and this recovery plan of the mayor was rejected at that election. And that's an important way to look at it. They did not want that recovery plan. They did not want that mayor to continue. So please take note of that, or else you're going to suffer during the next election cycle, and I don't necessarily think that's a good idea. Okay. The amortization schedule that I printed out is very simple. It worked with $40 million at 8% for 20 years. Your monthly payment on that note would be $334,000. So after you get your money, you got to come up with, start writing checks right away, $334,000 every month for 20 years. That's quite a chore. And like somebody has already mentioned, that at the end of the 20 years, even though you would have borrowed $40 million, you would have had to pay back in interest, in principal, $40,298,245. That is not smart. That is not a good business deal. If you need money to cover short-term expenses, you can do it a lot easier. Just use your imagination, be innovative, work with your banks, work with your lenders, and you can do this. But that building is not worth $40 million. Carolyn Rogers, here's my note. Take my card. Okay. You contact me about those backboards for the park, okay? And I'll be willing to take care of it. Okay. There are a lot of people in the community willing to step forward if you ask. So, and please reconsider this. It's not smart business. It's not going to float. And you know, I think Mr. Prince was elected to do a job. He should be allowed to do it. Thank you.
My name is John Allen. I live in the 5th District, and I basically echo the same things that the previous gentleman said regarding the objection to the loan. First, we have to pay the loan, the citizens. I consider myself particularly because I plan to be here the next 20 years, participating in the community and generating revenue and actually owning properties that would help come up pay with this money for the loan. I don't think it's a good idea for two reasons. One, as it was already mentioned, the building is not worth it. It's a 20-year obligation, and I don't think it has enough disclosure to it. Rarely do anyone loan me $20 until I can find my wallet without letting me know when I'm going to look for my wallet. Nevertheless, take a 20-year loan without knowing the terms or having such wide perimeters for the terms and the effect of those terms. In addition, there's been no specific plan put forward as to what we're going to do to kind of chop away at that loan to avoid paying all that interest over the 20 years, except the speculation of what we may or may not get from the casino. And I don't think that's a good idea either. With that being said, for myself and any of my comrades, peers, associates, and friends, we all feel the same way about this loan. Thank you.
My name's Marvin Wright, and I'm no stranger to this council or this city. And I listen to the word projection. Projection means maybe. No one can guarantee what tomorrow's going to bring. And for this city, and I'll say it again and loud, this council and this mayor to pass legislation like this when she's leaving office and to leave our generation, my grandchildren, and their grandchildren with the responsibility of paying a debt for years and years. I mean, how can councilmen come here and you say you're elected by the people, and the people just spoke and said, we don't want this. So now, y'all saying we don't want the people want. We want what we want. And I say this, and I say it once again, you will pay a price. Because see, the people of Gary are very intelligent. And they showed that. They said, no, you can't just smoke screen us anymore. And to me, it's a shame. And I stand with those council people that stand up for this community. That's all I have to say.
Patricia Brown, 6th District, serving on quite a few committees and whatnot, dealing with history. But what I like to say, when I voted for that for Mayor Karen, she loves Gary, Indiana. So we're not going to take that lightly. And the decisions that she makes are made with the education that she has put in front of us. Whether you like it or not, when we put people in office, we put them in office because we know they love Gary, Indiana. And they're going to stand up for the citizens of Gary, Indiana. They're not going to put us in a hole purposely. Yes, Gary might be in debt, but it's not any administration. It's not one mayor. It's the Lord that's going to push us forward. How he's going to do it, that's not our problem. We are praying, folks, and we will continue praying. Just like the gentleman added at the beginning of this meeting. We know prayer works. Thank you. God bless you, brother.
Seeing no one else, public portion is now closed. Mayor's coming back. Ma'am, you want to speak? Mayor, we have one more speaker.
Hello, my name is Kathy Matthews for the 1st District. I came a little late here with the meeting. Like I said, I worked with, I spoke time and time again with Karen. This job is, I mean, this blame, you shouldn't blame to one mayor. She came in with a problem when she came in 8 years ago. So we cannot, personally, with our own prejudice, we cannot just link it to her. There's a problem before she got in office. And the only thing she asking for, like she said, to work with her. Let's send her out in a bang. Okay, she cannot do it herself. She cannot run the city by herself. You know, I may have my differences and what I may change, something this and that and right, but we cannot put a finger in no one person. She didn't do this. This problem came over here when she first came. You know, like I said, I'm willing to work with a new mayor. You know, like I said, we have people of color. We must work together. That's the only way we're going to do it. We are quite often look for people to do for us. We must do for ourselves. Thank you.
At this time, seeing no one else, public portion is now closed. Mayor, swing back.
Mr. President, I just want to just be clear. When we took office in 2012, the city was $10 million in the hole, and continuously losing revenue, losing casino dollars. And so to say that the city was had money, that's just simply not true. The other thing is that I want to assure this council, the public of, and this is something, you know, I'm not going to divulge conversations that I have had with the Democratic nominee, but here's what I will tell you that I said. The election is over. My job is to make sure that he succeeds and that he can rest assured that everything that I do until December 31st is contemplated towards that end. There are a lot of armchair quarterbacks around here. But what they don't understand is that when they're sleeping or in their armchair quarterbacking, we're trying to figure this you-know-what out. All right.
Councilwoman Wade.
Mr. President, the answer is not do nothing. Neither did I ever say don't do anything. That doesn't make any sense. It's not logical not to do anything. If anybody is in debt, personal debt, you have all kinds of alternatives. You can file bankruptcy, you can borrow from family, whatever the situation may be. So you don't just do nothing and not pay your bills. So that's ludicrous that my colleagues would even say do nothing. But it's more than one way to skin a cat. And this way saddles us for the next 20 years. And we don't know the parameters, so we're looking at what is the worst case scenario. It doesn't matter whether I voted for the mayor. It doesn't matter whether I voted for any particular council person coming in. What matters is right now what our decision is going to be and looking forward to what the next administration is going to be. I was talking with Councilwoman Wyatt earlier, and I'm going to steal this one from you, Councilwoman. The Republican Party held up the nomination for the Supreme Court from President Obama for 16 months. We got a new president coming in. So it's a lifetime appointment. So let's wait. Just hold up, and they held it up. No, the country got more debt than we do. We're surviving. The city is not going to automatically go bankrupt in 6 months. That is not going to happen. I pay my taxes. All of these taxpayers are out here paying taxes. So I'm not falling for the okie doke and saying that there's going to be no money. With all of the tax anticipation warrants, and I voted against tax anticipation warrants because what it does is add more debt onto your bad debt. We got more bad debt, a whole $40 million. And like we said, at $40 million, we're going to be paying double that. We're not going to be seeing the benefits of a $40 million debt. And I know my colleagues, they've already indicated what they're going to do. But I would hope that the citizens who came up to the podium indicated that this is not a good idea, will continue to badger their council people over the next 6 months. And hopefully we can make enough noise where the deal won't go through. Do something else. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other council members?
Yes, Mr. President, I just want to say that with all the information and reviewing the meeting and everything discussed today, you know, we're looking at a mortgage on the public safety facility now. We're looking at Lit and Casino LDA as backing. You know, we have an appraisal that's contingent on the project even moving forward. Not to mention the interest, although we're not sure about that. 20 years is a long time. I mean, that's the time that I've served on the council. This is my 20th year. It's a long time. And I'm just not at that comfort level to move forward with this at this time. And so I will be voting no for it on this legislation.
Mr. President, I
Councilwoman
just
Brown.
want to make one last comment. Based on the mayor's last remarks, I've been on the council for a long time, and I know how much debt that the city was in, and we were forced to go before the Distress Unit Appeal Board and ask them to increase our levy so that we could pay them. We've been in this situation before, and I think what we're attempting to do at this time is not to put ourselves back in that same position. As a matter of fact, there is no Distress Unit Appeal Board now anyway. They've disbanded. But we had to go before them and ask them to increase our levy so that we could make it. So she is absolutely right. She came into an administration. We didn't have any, we had no money. So we've been in this situation before. And so we know what happens when you don't have money. And I can't imagine that the state would do anything to try to assist us again. As I said, there is no Distress Unit Appeal Board for us to go to and ask them to increase our levy. So that's it, Mr. President. That's all I have to say.
Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Councilman
I
Smith?
just want to add one other thing, too. There is no bankruptcy either.
Right.
There is no bankruptcy. There's nothing. You sit here with zero money, and you just broke. Then what do? This is not a scare tactic. Borrow. Who's gonna loan you money when you don't have any money to pay it back? Okay, whatever. Okay. We'll take your opinion and we'll go that route. We'll see you leave first.
Well, let me just say, we talked about this pretty much end of last year, and this is no secret what we're talking about today. This is just an amendment. I asked a question, did the King administration have any conflicts, and did they come to a certain standpoint where they had to do excessive borrowing? And they did. The King administration did borrow from the sanitary district. You can no longer borrow from the sanitary district. The Mayor Clay administration went to the Distress Unit Appeals Board, buying time. We have tried it doing tax anticipation warrants, bridge loans. The writing's been on the wall. And everybody say, well, we need more time to do something else. What else is it to do? How much more time do you need? The writing's been on the wall for quite a long time. We haven't laid anyone off. But if we do nothing, we won't have to wait till January 1 to start laying people off. We will start pretty much next week laying people off. We have to do something to maintain this city until times get better. The governor even announced that he will assist us, but he will assist at a cost, so us not being empowered to run this city. There's help, but be careful what you ask for. People ask about letting the state take over your schools. You see the problem that you have now. You can't even go to not one person to find out how we're gonna get the grass cut. The simplest things. Say, wait, let the new administration come in. The mayor has already demonstrated that you will not have anything to operate on day one. Me payroll in 2020. I'll be here. How do I tell these employees you don't get a check? I have another job. I have a check coming in. But how do I tell them we can't meet payroll because we're waiting, we're still trying to work it out? There's no more time. And the real reason why this deal did not go through, and I know sometimes we try and cover up and butter up things a little bit, because so much negativity went out on this city, nobody wanted to touch it. Nobody wanted to touch the deal. The interest rate was coming out crazy for what they wanted to do the deal for. So we had to pull this deal back and let some of that rhetoric that was going on in this city calm down and then put it back out to market. That's the truth. We talk so bad about this city, how we function with each other. And every city has problems, but they learn how to do things in a civil manner. We have a notified our incoming council members what's taking place, the importance of this. The mayor-elect has been notified the importance of this. The city has to continue to function. It's not about the mayor looking good, going out of anything. But the city has to function. And I don't think people really realize that. Now, everything that we talk about, we deal with in the city, you just cannot put it out to the public because certain people take certain things and they turn it a different direction. You can't. It'd be nice to put everything that we have to talk about just to put out before you all. But when this matter came up, we did not do anything on third reading. We took it in committee where it was open for anyone that had any questions on it to ask those questions, to get those questions answered. So this is it. This is it. Either we do this or we don't do anything. Or we put it out there and it still may come back. They may walk away from the deal. Because maybe they are concerned about what the mayor-elect is going to do. And maybe if he's not on board, they might not be on board. What do you do? So I'll advise our council members to start working on Plan B because we don't have that much time. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
No.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
No.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
No.
President Brewer?
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 6 yes, 3 noes.
With 6 yes, 3 no, CPO 2019-33 passed on third and final, and so ordered.
CPO 2019-34, an ordinance approving a transfer of funds between Fund 224 account 44410 machinery and equipment and Fund 224 account 42220 gasoline. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, passage of CPO 2019-34 on third and final reading.
Second?
Moving properly second, overview at this time.
May I have 1 minute, Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, members of the council, the Gary Fire Department is asking the Common Council to transfer $50,000 from Fund 224, account 44410, Department 305, which is machinery and equipment, to Fund 224, account number 42220, Department 305, gasoline. Due to the accounts being in two different numerical series, it requires council approval to ratify the transfer. We're currently 3 months in arrears with Pinkerton, and one of the significant users is the Gary Fire Department, and these are owed for gas, fuel, and gas and lubrication.
Any question, council members? Thank you, Mayor. Tonight is set aside for public portion. Anyone would like to speak for or against CPO 2019-34? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
Yes, good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name's Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District, and I'm going to oppose this ordinance, but not for the reason you think. Not for the reason you think. Not because I don't believe that the fire department needs sufficient gasoline, fuel, and lubrication for their equipment so that they can protect the public in our city. I'm not objecting because I don't believe that they need that money for those materials. I'm not objecting that the fire department needs this $50,000 for equipment. I've never heard a fireman anywhere in this city say, we've got enough equipment. Stop buying us equipment. We've got too much equipment around here. We don't need equipment. That's not true. The reason I'm opposing this, Mr. President, members of the council, is because the Gary Fire Department should have this $50,000 for the equipment they desperately need. The Gary Fire Department should also have this $50,000 for the fuel and lubrication that they need to keep their equipment running in good shape and without unnecessary wear. What the Gary Fire Department needs is sufficient money to operate. Taking this money, robbing Peter to save Paul, hoping that in the next 6 months the fire department won't need equipment, doesn't make a lot of sense. I know how desperate that the professionals in the fire department must feel that if we don't get this gasoline, the trucks will not even be able to run, let alone run smoothly or operate in prime efficiency. So they need the gasoline, they need the lubrication, they need the diesel fuel so that they can report in whatever fashion to save lives in our city. But they also are going to need the equipment that you're transferring money from to make this expenditure. So, Mr. President, members of the council, please understand that I'm objecting to this ordinance, not because I don't believe that the fire department needs gasoline and fuel and lubrication for their equipment, not because I don't believe that the fire department doesn't have great need for equipment, necessary equipment to respond to fires and emergencies. Mr. President, members of the council, I'm objecting because you should provide sufficient funds for the fire department to have both of those necessary budgetary items met for the safety of our city and our citizens. Thank you.
Mr. Nowacki. Seeing no one else, public portion is closed. Let me just say the 224 account is the public safety or the fire department fund, and it has to come before the council for approval for moving those dollars there. So it is their funds, you know, and they have proper equipment. We have made numerous purchases for apparatus for them, made quite a few improvements to stations, so we have done our due diligence with the fire department. Any further questions from council members or statements? Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Prothro?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith? Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
and President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Vote of 8-0, CPO 2019-34, pass on third and final, and so ordered.
Mr. President, it's pending ordinance and resolutions on third and final reading.
Council pending orders and resolution on second reading.
CPO 2019-35, an ordinance to establish the boundaries of the Gary Land Company Historic District, sponsored by Ronald Brewer, President of the Gary Common Council, Rebecca Wyatt, Councilwoman of the 1st District, Mary Brown, Councilwoman of the 3rd District.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman White.
we have before us CPO 2019-35,
Yes.
and I would like to assign it to the Art, Culture, and History Committee meeting, which is scheduled for June 10th at 6 p.m. That's a Monday, June 10th at 6 p.m. Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
No, you don't. No,
No?
no. You just scheduled it, then we'll do a full.
Okay. Good.
There's a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Wade has seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
No.
Councilman Prothel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith? Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 7 yes, 1 no.
A vote of 7 yes, CPO 2019-35 is moving to the Art, Culture, and History Committee June the 10th at 6 p.m. and a public hearing June the 18th at 6 p.m.
CPL 2019-36, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of the City of Gary, Indiana Economic Development Target Increment Revenue Bonds, Series 2019, U.S. Steel Corporation Project, and the provision of the proceeds thereof to U.S. Steel Corporation, and authorizing approving other actions in respect thereto, sponsored by the Gary Economic Development Commission.
Do all finances, I'm gonna have her do all the finance at once.
Okay.
Do them one.
CPL 2019-38, an ordinance revising the 2019 appropriations for the general operating budgets for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2019, and ending December 31st, 2019, sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller. CPL 2019-39, an ordinance appropriating 2019 budget for the operating expenses and salaries of grant and special revenue funds for Commission for Women and Health and Human Services for the City of Gary for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller. CPR 2019-05, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, approving certain matters in connection with the establishment of an economic development area and allocation area of the approval of an economic development plan for said area. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, and the Gary Redevelopment Commission and Gary Plan Commission.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brown.
I move for passage of CPO 2019-36, CPO 2019-38, CPO 2019-39, and CPR 2019-05 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, June 12th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing on June 18th.
Second.
Been moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Prothel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2019-36, CPO 2019-38, CPO 2019-39, and CPR 2019-05 is moving to the Finance Committee June the 12th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing June the 18th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2019-37, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Hatham Swice, 9557 South Kenneth Avenue, Oak Lawn, Illinois. Property at 5130 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Smith.
I move for passage of CPO 2019-37 on second reading, with the planning meeting on June 12th at 5 p.m. and a public hearing on June 18th at 6 p.m.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2019-37 is moved to the Planning Committee June the 12th at 5 p.m. and a public hearing June the 18th at 6 p.m.
Mr. President, it's pending ordinance and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Boards and commissions would like to have a committee meeting June the 12th at 6 p.m. and a public hearing June the 18th at 6 p.m. This is for our Gary Public Transportation Board.
Any other?
Motion. Yes, motion. Second.
So there's a motion on the floor that public commissioner, boards and commission will have a meeting June the 12th at 6 p.m. and a public hearing June the 18th. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Public announcement, but it was second.
Public announcement.
Yeah, okay. But it was second, so. Councilwoman Brown?
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
All right, thank you. At this time, we will have the mayor's report at this time.
Mr. President, members of the council, the first thing I'd like to do is give condolences to the family of James Session, the family of Grace Dumas, who will be funeralized on this coming Saturday. Mr. Session will also be funeralized on Saturday, and the family of Brian Williams, as well as the family of former Gary firefighter, get it right, Squire Henderson. I would also like to commend all of the graduates of 2019. I had the opportunity of attending the 8th grade or the Gary Middle School graduation this past Friday, and it was a wonderful ceremony, also commemorating one of their classmates who would have been with them, Ariane Fooley. In addition to that, West Side graduates tomorrow at 4 p.m., and Roosevelt graduates Friday at 6 p.m. Bowman graduated Sunday, this past Sunday. So I just want to congratulate all of the graduates. There was also a drill team competition this past Saturday in the tradition of old. Unfortunately, it was at the same time as the NAACP, and so we didn't get a chance to attend, but I heard that it was an extremely successful event, and just want to congratulate Sergeant Hunter on that. The Gary branch of the NAACP had a wonderful life membership banquet. Fred Seaman was the speaker. Congratulations to all of the new life membership recipients, as well as to the awardees. And Commissioner Oliver Gilliam was one of the awardees. Dorothy Lavelle, the publisher of The Crusader, as well as Dr. Michael McGee, and I know I'm forgetting somebody, it'll come back. The FOP held a wonderful celebration in honor of the fallen officers and their families, and they made it a point to outline that it was, in fact, while a memorial, that it was a celebration. And that was held last Friday on May 24th. In addition to that, on May 25th, Senator Melton had a town hall meeting at the library that was very informative. Mark Spencer, the same weekend, put on 3, I believe, performances of The Wiz that were phenomenal. We had a Gary Patriotic Association commemoration on Monday, Memorial Day, at the on the grounds of the AMVETS post on 11th and Taft. It was a well-attended ceremony. We also celebrated the naming of the 61st National Park in the National Park System. So just like they talk about Yellowstone and the Pullman Park, they will also talk about the Indiana Dunes State Park, Indiana Dunes National Park. So that was huge. The other awardee was Sarah Givens. Sorry, Mrs. Givens, because I know that she, along with the others, were well-deserved. We had a community meeting on May 29th with both the businesses and residents for the First District. A lot of the discussion was about the Lake Street construction that will be underway, and that is actually already underway, and how to coexist with that construction, because we know that it will lead to significant improvements, but we also know that we had some challenges last season as they were installing the sewers and water lines, and we don't want to repeat those challenges. On this Thursday, June 6th, we will have community revitalization training. We had 6 fellows with the Center for Community Progress, and so we'll have 2 other cities. I believe Birmingham is one of the cities, and maybe Rochester, New York is the other city. It will be held at our house from 6 to 8 in partnership with the Legacy Foundation and the Center for Community Progress. Ola Morris, Devin Hall, there are 6 people altogether who will receive this training and be able to work in the area of community revitalization. There will be a number of events that are being held June 7th and June 21st. The Gary 10 Point Coalition is doing a community cookout. It will be on the corner of 45th and Broadway. You know that we have had a number of incidences of violence, and we simply just want to encourage the law-abiding, peace-loving people who are in the community to come out. And so we would ask that you join us with 10 Point. We are supporting this event on June 7th from 5 to 7:30, or June 21st and/or June 21st from 5 to 7:30. In addition to that, on June 15th, at the Tolliston Park, the Peacekeepers will have a Father's Day event from 12 to 5 p.m., and we would encourage folks to come out and support that event. On Friday, June 7th, we're inviting you to join us on the steps of City Hall, 1230, wear your orange. It is the national observance of Mayors Against Gun Violence. Wearing orange is in honor of the life of Hadia Pendleton, and that's one of the ways that that started. I would also note that the Court of Appeals reversed the dismissal of the city's lawsuit against the Bad Apple gun manufacturers and gun dealers. So that is going to advance. The Gary Civil Service Commission will have applications available for the position of firefighter beginning Friday, June 14th, ending Friday, June 28th. Interested parties may pick up an application at the Fire Commission office on Broadway, 5401 Broadway, room B6. That's the basement level. Applicants can now be 17.5 years of age when picking up an application, but they have to be 18 to begin their employment. There will be a City of Gary annual job fair June 19th that is going to be at the Railcat Stadium from 10 to 4. Just want to make you aware that there is a rebranding and new additional owners who are joining Dwayne Rancifer at the Outfield Restaurant across the street. They will be Michael Watson and Eric Boone. They are closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, but have been open, and I've been asked to just remind people to stop down there. I know that there have been in the past concerns about service. They said if you give them another chance, you will be pleased with the product. For the job fair, participating employers are the city, Genesis Center, the Lion Steel, Amazon, UPS, TMB2, Fifth Third Banks, the Railcats, Allied Universal, Marum Health, NBC Staffing, Bexor, 160 Drive-In Academy, DriveCo, Horizon Bank, Community Health Net, and many other employers. We are still working on some of the outages. Some of them are NIPSCO outages, and we're trying to work through that with NIPSCO, but some of them are outages because of stolen wires and because of other equipment malfunction. We are working to get the dollars to get that done. You will see mulch that has been dropped in a number of places, specifically in parks throughout the city, and that is mulch that came from the Gary Sanitary District. They create their own mulch, and it's been dropped off so that it can be spread. So you will see that mulch being spread throughout the next couple of weeks. You know, it's already been said. I'll reiterate it. Our General Services team has had a tremendous challenge with all of the rain that we've had, just trying to keep up. We are now working in zones, let me get it right, 20 and, let's see, I'm gonna, have the zones, I just want to, let's see. I know that one of the zones is adjacent to the 5x5x5, which is going from 21st to 25th from Broadway to Virginia Street. The other, okay, here we go. The other zone is on the other side of Broadway, I believe, but I'll get that out to you along with, okay, here we are. Zone 60, which includes 23rd and Delaware, well, that's dead. Zone 60 is where I just outlined, and then there is another zone. The paving for Phase 2 will be released for bidders this week. Days Asphalt is continuing to crack seal in the 5th and 6th district. Meade is working on the NIPSCO steel gas main replacement project in the 2nd and 3rd district. And Grimmer Construction continues with the sewer linings. And the NIPSCO upgrades in the alleys are continuing, so they're continuing to do restoration. If you think it's done and it does not appear to have been fully restored, please do a 311 on that, because we are watching that closely, and Indiana American Water is engaged in 2 separate projects. I also want you to know that the sanitary district is doing some extensive work on both streets and sewers and ditches in Black Oak. There have been just springs popping up all over the place. We're trying to route them with piping. They're laying new pipes, and once that's done, they will be doing some paving. And we are awaiting the final word from NDOT as to when the Grant Street ramps will be reopened. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes, Mayor. Phase 1 of the paving, 15th Avenue from Broadway to Martin Luther King, when will that be completed? They stopped, and they're not at Martin Luther King. So
Well, it
when
was
will that-
Broadway to actually, it wasn't all the way to Martin Luther King, because 15th Avenue actually ends at that intersection. So when we do Phase 2, they'll finish it. But they finished what was bid. But the way that the intersection runs, they did it all the way to 15th Avenue, but they didn't do it to King, and that, they did it as it was bid.
Okay, because that is it's the worst spot. What they did not do is, I mean, it's just.
They did what they were contracted to do.
No, I understand that. I guess what I'm saying is the section that was left unpaved is the worst on 15th Avenue. It's crumbled, and it's, I don't know if you've seen it, it's really bad. I'm not.
No, we're very well aware of it. It'll be done in Phase 2.
Any other questions for the mayor?
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Madam Mayor, do you have any word on the ramps going to I-65 off of the 7th Avenue? Those are still closed.
The ramps going to I-60, oh, that's part of the I-65 project. Half of that road is still missing. I can get you more in-depth update from NDOT, but that's going to be a while.
Well, I've gotten information from constituents who take that, and they're saying that that portion that where the ramp is closed, they're not working there, so it could be open, and I guess it's later on that they're working.
And constituents that work for NDOT?
No, constituents who
just
are
saw it?
residents, who are residents, and are trying to, they really want to use that entrance. I'll confirm and get the details for you.
Anyone else? Well, thank you, Mayor. You reminded me about my own daughter that graduated from Thea Bowman just this past Saturday. I want to say congratulations to her, and she also graduated as a certified CNA at this time, so she'll be taking her rest of her career and education into the nursing field. So I want to just say congratulations to my own daughter. We have a few speakers here, but I don't think a lot of them are here. Mr. Nowacki be first. Ms. Johnson, is she here? Okay, Ms. Robertson, she's gone. And I have a Richard Barnes. Okay. Mr. Nowacki is our only speaker for tonight.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name's Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District, and Mr. President, please don't blame the public when the opinions of investors and loan makers around this country consider Gary a poor risk for their investments. Please don't blame public speakers who may bring issues before the council that might be critical of the conditions in our city. Please don't blame the citizens for the opinions of our city that are taken by others, because those opinions are based not upon the criticisms that might be spoken at these meetings or maybe on the internet. It's really because the conditions in our city are pretty poor. Today, you had an opportunity to do something reasonable financially. 8 years ago, the city was $10 million in debt. Had the city council, had the administration said, you know, we can't wipe out a $10 million debt. No one should expect us to. But if we would have chipped away $250,000 a year, just $250,000, $250,000 a year, then our debt this year would only be $8 million. Wow! And then the new administration could come in and say, gosh, we've got an $8 million debt. We can't do this all in one lump sum, but we can nip away at it, a couple of $100,000 a year, and then in 4 years, it would be another $1 million less. In other words, no one was expecting, but we had an administration with a plan, and the plan was to take a $10 million debt and turn it into a $40 million debt. And you wonder why people look at you with a jaundiced eye and said, maybe Gary would not be the best investment? Well, that's one of the reasons. Because you could have done small things year after year after year, take care of basic things year after year after year, and we would have seen improvements in our city incrementally. Instead, what did we see? We saw a parade of consultants, a parade of hanger-ons. We saw a virtual flood of money given in fees to these consultants. Bo Kemp, $5 million to Bo Kemp himself over the last 8 years. And what do we have to show for it? That others look at our city and don't think it's a good investment.
Thank you.
Mr. President, you know where the blame is.
I got you. He's our last speaker. Thank everyone for coming out and being with us. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We're now adjourned. God bless you all.